thanks for joining us this afternoon. I am with Shonnie Jones of Century 21 Discovery, and she does an amazing job with virtual open houses and really adopted well to the COVID-19 challenges, crisis challenge. And, Shonnie is a master's, the highly coveted Master's Award winner for Century 21 for the last 2 years. And last year, she earned the Relentless Realtor Award from her company, Century 21 Discovery. And that's an amazing award that's, goes out once a year, and it exemplifies that type of agent within Century 21 Discovery who is an all-the-time person. And Shonnie, thanks for joining us this afternoon. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. It's going very well. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. Hey, we got a couple of things that we want to talk about. You really pivoted nicely when it came to the virtual open houses. Tell us about that and what format you're doing, and a little bit about the technical stuff, and what tools you use, and tell us about that.
Oh gosh, where do I start? Well, first thing, I just put my problem solver hat on and figured that's pretty much the bulk of what we do in our business is figure out how to bring buyers and sellers together and what it takes to do that. With not being able to do our traditional open houses, with sellers and buyers, being nervous or concerned, just finding ways to continue to meet my sellers' needs. We had several listings and no way to really do a traditional open house. So I thought, well, we'll do it virtual, no problem. But then when I started looking to see what other agents were doing, all of which was great because you're jumping in the deep end in an unknown territory. I was just trying to then put my seller hat on, what would satisfy my sellers to know that we are doing what we can to bring their properties to the buyers that are going to buy it. So it's visible, so it's seen, giving them that exposure to get an offer and get that listing in escrow, but then also putting my buyer hat on how to get them there. And with a lot of use with virtual platforms, I saw right away, even with our kids and their classes transferring to the various platforms that let them do virtual classes, I thought, well, I'm going to use one of those to do it. There's other options like Facebook Live. There's so many different ways you could go. The reason I didn't use Facebook Live is because for me, I felt like I would be very distracted with seeing the comments while I'm trying to show a home.
Right.
And trying to think of, well, if it was, for lack of a better word, a real open house, how would I be interacting with people, and try to keep it as real to that as possible. So we used Zoom, and there's other platforms that do the same thing, but I wanted to use Zoom for a couple reasons. One, it helps me have this face-to-face interaction where I could see you, you could see me, which is what it would be like if you walked into a home. I would see you, you would see me, we would talk. I would show you the home, I would answer your questions. So in this case, I'm still showing you the home. You're just not physically with me, you're virtually with me, and you could ask questions as I go. There were a couple things I wanted to achieve. One was a guest book, because when I'm doing a traditional open house, I do have people sign in for many reasons. The main reason is so sellers know who's coming through their homes. It makes my sellers more comfortable to know who's entering and looking around. And the other reason is so I can help that buyer, if not this house, another house. And this allowed me to virtually create a guest book so that I could have them sign in and allow me to follow up later.
So that was one of my topics that I was going to ask, which is how do you capture that information? And then how do you apply that to your follow-up after the open house?
For this, it was, on our first round, we did a pre-registration. So when we pushed it out to advertise that we're doing a virtual open house, we did push out register now, that type of thing. And even if they went to sign on during, if they didn't do a pre-registration, it still asks for email and phone number. At some point in the meeting, we just gave access, but everybody still gave their email and phone number, because we didn't want it to be a deterrent either.
Sure.
we still want you to come in. Yes, we want your information so we could follow up with you and take care of you, but we also want you to see the home. So at a certain point, we did open it up regardless for that reason. But what ended up afterwards, I took my brainstorming process to a good friend of ours that actually has helped us in the past with some social media marketing and our website, and has done different things for us previously. And he helped us with the tech side, because that is not my forte, and you got to know where your limits are.
Right. You're right.
That would be my limit right there. So we basically recruited him, and he created a landing page, which I already had on the website for my open houses. But this, he turned it into a landing page to where if you went to my website or clicked on anything that has any of my listings, it would automatically take you to that spot. Mm-hmm. So you could see the open houses and then sign in or join if it was live at that point. But what that did was collect the information when they signed in, so that after, I have a list of everybody that attended my open house. So then I could either do a follow-up phone call, thank you so much for joining us, a follow-up email, which I would do anyway.
So the reason I brought that up is because I got the thank you email today for the open house that I was in on Sunday with you, right?
Yes.
And just an amazing job. You did a great job with the follow-up. You did a great job in the words that you used in your follow-up as well. So, I wanted to comment on that. How did people get to it? Was it hard to navigate? And I guess, how much traffic did you have?
I had about 8 people at my afternoon one, and I had 12 people at my morning one. So I did 2 in the same day, which
on 2 different properties, right?
2 different properties. So in the morning I went to one property. They're both happen to be in the same city, but that morning I went to one property, and then in the afternoon I did the virtual open house on a second property. So I had 2 in the same day, which I'd never be able to do in a traditional
right.
So I actually really liked being able to do that. That was kind of neat. So I thought I had pretty decent traffic, especially one of them, my one listing that I did that morning is kind of up in the hills. So sometimes it's hard to get traffic there just because of where it was at. Whereas doing the virtual open house really helped facilitate traffic regardless of that. We did order signage. Part of the reason why I did put the landing page on my website, it's because then I can order signage that has, the web address /open, virtual open house, so that if they go to it today, tomorrow, next week, next month, they can still see what virtual open houses we're doing ongoing. And I could get that signage and put those signs out just like I did on my traditional open houses, except now it says virtual open house. And as soon as people go to the website, it will lead them straight to that virtual open house. We also did the link on the MLS, so that if an agent is searching on the MLS to give their buyers like, hey, here's some virtual open houses, or whatever it may be, they can find it that way. And then I posted on every platform I'm involved in: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I think that's.
So did you have like an aha moment afterwards or during that you said, and that you would consider just a huge learning, part of it, to where you would say, you know what, next time if I do this, it's going to make a big difference? Any of that?
There hasn't been there's little things that I think I'll tweak as I go, but I feel like that's normal for anything, especially when it is new. When we did it initially, the thought was we did it for an hour, thinking that people would sign on and off throughout the hour. However, that's not what occurred. What occurred is everybody did sign on at the beginning. So then that hour seems kind of long.
So did they stay with you the whole time?
Most of them did, yes.
Really?
Yeah. I was surprised at that too, because I figured you're going to see the house in sign off or whatever, which would have been fine if they did. I think all the people that signed on were just incredibly polite.
Well, and it's funny that you say that. The thing that comes to mind with me is that, protocol. What is protocol? And you're right about the politeness. And, I think buyers and the consumer is getting used to this type of viewing properties, and they're not sure, should I stay on? Should I, bail off and go to the next one? And it's perfectly okay if they bail off and go to the next one, right?
Because our thinking was in the hour, and I think I even said it several times throughout, most people won't take more than 15 minutes, and that's max to look at a home. They come in, they look, they ask their few questions, they go to the next home in a traditional setting. And we were trying to mirror that. And I was prepared to basically tour the home numerous times if people were signing on and off. That didn't happen. So I ended up touring it once and then kind of just answering the questions, which was fine. With that, I think next time I would do it for a shorter period of time. Part of it too is just getting the consumer used to the new format because it is new for them too.
And what about doing like segments? Maybe a 15 or 20-minute segment 5 times during that day. I don't know if that's doable or thinkable at all.
Yeah, and the other idea we had is even doing it like a 15, 20-minute segment. And then that initial time, it is officially live, but then you can play that video, but I could still be sitting there and interacting live, like answering questions, but they'd still see the video that I did live earlier. That way I'm not having to stay at the seller's house that long.
Were you solo on this one? Were you doing it yourself, right?
My friend that helped us with the tech side, his background happens to be in hosting meetings for big corporations. So that's what he does for a living. So in my brainstorming with him, he actually came up with the idea of hosting it for me, and we liked it and we ran with that. Just because I didn't want to be, it's hard to multitask, believe it or not. It is very hard. So to be able to show a house, talk about the features of the home, and also look at comments or who's coming on and off, or making sure everybody's greeted and no one's overlooked. That's a lot to do without being very distracting to everybody who happens to be present. So for that reason, we had him professionally host it to where he was making sure everyone was, welcome, hello, thank you for signing on. And he would facilitate the chat questions so that I didn't have to look at the chat. I could just focus on showing. And then he would verbally say, oh, Shonnie, someone's asking about, what kind of countertop is that? Or what kind of flooring is that? Or what year was this house built? And it helped it flow in a conversational style. And it helped too, because if people chatted in and multiple people were asking the same question, then he's only asking it once and I'm answering it once. That way I'm not distracted by the actual chat and taking away from showing the property.
Anything else you'd like to add before we close up here?
Anything else I'd like to add? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it went well for not knowing what I was doing. Just because some of all of it is really trial and error right now. It's kind of like, we need to do something to serve our sellers. So I'm going to give it a go. We've got nothing to lose. And we need something to serve those buyers that are still looking. And this was a way to get it out there for them. And it worked.
So Shonnie, right now, and just a different topic, before I let you go, you've got how many in escrow right now?
4.
You have 4 properties in escrow right now. They're all coming to a close in the next 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
And how's the market in your opinion as far as COVID-19 and have you seen what's going on in your brain as far as buyers and sellers are concerned?
It's been stronger for me now than it was before, because we're now really working with buyers that are very serious and sellers that are very serious. So things are moving faster at a faster pace, because anybody that was like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to buy now, those people they're waiting, which is totally fine. Right. But it's left room for the people that are ready to go and they're not messing around. So I feel like I've almost been in a vortex of you hit the ground running because they're ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I've been talking about it's like the A team is in. It's the A team of buyers, it's the A team of sellers. The transactions are good quality transactions because they're not fooling around,
Yeah,
and they're ready to go.
for sure. And I've enjoyed it greatly. Both of those houses that I did virtual open houses on my first round entered escrow that week.
Good. Well, Shonnie, I just want to say thank you very much. You're a champion at what you do. You say what you do what you say, and it's a pleasure. Thank you for sharing the thoughts with us as far as the virtual open houses are concerned. And thanks for doing a great job, and I appreciate it. Charge on.